Menace Stone, Chapter 12. Later that afternoon, I phoned Stan to find out why I hadn't heard from him. His mom answered, "He's not here." "But I spoke to him yesterday. He said he was going to call you." "He did. But he isn't coming home." And the line went dead. All night I tried to figure out what could have gone wrong. One reason, he said, was all he needed, and I gave him one. The next morning I met up with Fish at the school gates, but it felt different. "He sounded like he was coming back, right?" Fish asked. "Something must have happened after I talked to him." "You should have traced the call," he said. I punched him in the arm, which hurt me, I'm sure, more than him. Yeah, I should have pulled out my handy-dandy junior detective kit and put a trace on the call. Okay, he rubbed his arm. Inside the school, everything looked normal, which really pissed me off. Didn't people know everything had changed? Did anyone care that Stan was gone? Would anyone even notice? Melody fluttered up to Fish at our lockers. I noticed Kat behind her, but I kept my face inside my locker to avoid saying something stupid. Soon Fish had been pulled into Melody's orbit and was floating down the hall behind her. It was safe to turn, I figured, but when I did, Kat was standing directly in front of me. "Whoa," I said, backing up a step and finding myself smushed against the metal banks of lockers. She smiled and moved back, to give me room, I guessed. "Hey," I said. Brilliant. My heart was racing, and I wondered if she could tell, with those superhuman powers girls seem to have. "I heard your obnoxious friend skip town." In a millisecond, she went from being Supergirl to utterly ordinary. Even my heartbeat slowed. "He's not obnoxious." I moved past her towards my class. I could hear her behind me, and then she touched my arm. Her cheeks were tingled pink. "I'm sorry," she said. "That was dumb. Really dumb." She seemed sincere, and my heart went at it again. It was like a lawnmower motor. One pull and it went off. "Are you worried about him?" Melody said he's been gone a couple of days. I moved to the side of the hallway, out of the human current. "I thought he was coming back last night," I said. "That's what he told me. But I don't know. Maybe he's on a road trip, California, Mexico. But you don't think so?" I shook my head. "I don't think so." "Well, I hope he's okay." Then she reached out and touched my arm again, and it felt like a branding iron, only cool. So cool that when she took it away, I could still feel the imprint. She started towards the throng of students, but then stopped. She pulled out a strand of her hair. "So, why didn't you ask me to dance the other night?" Now her cheeks were quite red, and quite beautiful. I shifted from my right foot to the left. I mentally calculated possible answers quickly. I had to leave, lame. I needed to look for Stan, lamer, and additionally not true. "But I wanted to ask," I said finally. She tucked the strand of her hair behind her perfect ear. "You could have," she said, and the bell rang and she walked away. I watched her until she disappeared into the classroom. The halls were getting less crowded. I was going to be late for history, and with my record of skipping class, I couldn't afford that. I decided to take a shortcut through the courtyard, an area partly obscured by large cedar trees. I walked quickly, but I soon realized I wasn't alone. I looked behind me. Claude, Jeff, and Arnie had followed me. I hurried, but Claude stepped around and into my path. Behind me, I could hear his friends breathing. I tried to sidestep Claude, pretending that he wasn't there, but he headed me off, placing his weight-trained bulk uncomfortably close. "Guess you're not so brave without your bodyguards around, eh?" he said. "Actually, Claude, I'm not that brave even when they are around," I said, looking straight at him. "But then, you don't seem to be walking around on your own much either." This was probably not the greatest idea I'd ever had in my life, but I was suddenly tired of wondering if he was going to strike again. He pushed me, and I stumbled backwards, but didn't fall. "I saw you talking to Kat," he pushed again. "She's way out of your league, ballerina boy." "I don't want to see it again." He stood, poised to push again, laughing over my shoulder at his golfing buddies. Like I was such a no-threat, I'd wait patiently for the next blow. I was instantly furious. I could actually feel the adrenaline pouring through my body. Aunt Frida's warden, the men who'd taken away Henry, all of them must have looked just like Claude. I pushed hard at his chest. Taken by surprise, he fell to the ground. Before I could do anything, somebody pinned my arms behind me. The first hit landed on my nose, and as the pain exploded inside my head, I could actually feel the bone and cartilage crumble. The blows kept coming, my left cheek, the side of my head, my shoulder. I could hear myself grunting as the air was being pushed out of my lungs. But at the same time, I was watching it. This thing happened to me. It didn't seem real. This happened in television, in the movies, in history books, not to me. Because it wasn't just my body being pummeled. With each hit, Claude was trying to get his hands into something deep inside me, something just out of reach. And I knew I was hanging on, My eyes were closed, but I could see the colors zigzagging against the inside of my eyelids, and then black. I woke up with Nurse Shapiro peering down at me. I shifted my head in the direction of slow-motion voices. Shepard and the principal, Miss Stern, were standing in the corner of the nurse's office. "He's awake," Nurse Shapiro said over her shoulder. I tried to raise myself on one elbow, but my arm wouldn't cooperate. I fell back against the pillow. "Don't try to move. The ambulance is on its way." "Who did this to you?" Miss Stern's sharp nose was directly above me. Even in the pain, I wondered if she'd ever considered investing in a good pair of tweezers. "Could I have some water?" I asked. "I don't think that's a good idea, at least not right now," clucked the nurse. Was it Claude? Shepard's face came into view, and I felt I was going to suffocate. I wanted to punch the faces out of my way. I couldn't breathe. "Give him some room, please." Nurse Shapiro's decisive bark sent them both scuttling to the side of the room. Gratefully, I drew some air. Then something in the corner of the room caught my eye, something pink and torn and ruffly. I tried to focus, but it was a sudden recognition in Shepard's eyes, in the way he looked, that made me feel sick to my stomach. "What's that?" I asked. My voice sounded like sandpaper. "Nothing, Ben, at least not now." But Miss Stern picked it up and brought it over. Her voice was kind. "We found this around your feet, Ben. Please, you have to help us punish whoever did this to you." I looked at the pink crinoline. Someone's idea of a tutu. My head boomed. I felt such hatred burst inside of me that I realized I'd never understood the word until now. The ambulance guys poked and prodded, lifting limbs and pressing to see where I was damaged. I tried to float away. What a disappointment my body was. So bloody fragile. I couldn't help thinking how invincible I felt when I was dancing, how every part of me responded to my orders, even as I ached with exhaustion. Now everything was spinning out of control, beyond my reach. I closed my eyes, willed the blackness to come. I refused to open my eyes until I was at the hospital bed in the emergency room, and some of the bodies had retreated. Someone was holding my wrist, so I slowly opened my right eye. The left one was glued shut. A ugly doctor grimaced down at me. "I'm Dr. Blanche." He bellowed, as if my hearing had been affected. "I was hoping for a beautiful blonde just out of medical school. Only on television, I'm afraid," he chuckled. "I'm glad your sense of humor wasn't damaged." "Who's joking?" I grumbled, trying to sit up. My shoulder burned with pain. "You'll want to be careful with that shoulder, Ben. It was partially dislocated. Other than that, there's some bruises and swelling, but that's it. You're pretty lucky." "Right. I was just thinking that same thing." I saw his nose twitch as if he was tired of my wit. "The police are here," he said. "They want to ask you a few questions." A uniform entered the room, pulled a chair up, and sat beside the bed. "Hello, son." I mumbled hello, even though it is my least favorite thing when a total stranger calls me son. "I won't take too much of your time. You look as if you could use a little rest." That's why I checked in, for a rest. He looked as unimpressed as the doctor had. "Son, did you see who did this to you? My name is Ben." He didn't seem to hear, just waited for my answer. In the blink of a moment I had made the decision. No one, not even the police, was going to take this away from me. I shook my head. They came at me from behind. It was over too quick. Yeah. They didn't take anything. That's what your teacher said. He mentioned a boy in school who he had thought might. I didn't see anything. A voice? Did they say anything? I shook my head. "Random act of violence," I offered. The officer scribbled something in his notebook, and I thought he sighed. "Yep, see a lot of that." He stopped writing. "I also see a lot of kids who take on things best left to the police." He gave me a look, dripping with meaning. I nodded as if he was talking about someone else. "Here's my card. Call me if you remember anything. Ben." He placed the white business card beside the green jello on my tray. "Yep." As soon as he left the room, Dr. Blatch stepped forward. "Your mother should be here soon." "Mom?" I groaned. Blood and guts were not her thing. In hospitals, she hated them. Hadn't stepped inside one since... "Ben! Oh, Ben!" She walked through the door slowly, looking around like she was on the set of a horror movie. "Are you all right?" She stepped forward and hugged me carefully. "Ow!" I yelped, and she sprang back. "His shoulder will be pretty sore," Dr. Blanche explained. "How did this happen? Who would do such a thing to you?" It was on the tip of my tongue to tell her about Claude, but something held my back. It wasn't fear, it was just something completely new to me. Revenge. Comic book, science fiction, movie theater with popcorn, Hollywood revenge. I wanted it really badly, and I wanted to get it myself. Seeing Claude punished would not be enough. My whole body tingled with the thought of crushing his face. I didn't see them coming. Someone grabbed my arms. They jumped me, I answered, going for partial truths. Maybe you'll remember more after a while, honey. You're probably still in shock. She turned to the doctor. Can he come home with me now? Dr. Blatch shook his head. I don't think he has a concussion, but I don't want to take any chances. He can go home tomorrow. Mom looked ready to crawl out of her skin, and I hated Claude even more for what this was doing to her. I found a phony, cheerful voice. I'll be okay, Mom. It's not that bad. Honest. I'll stay with you. Mom, it's okay. The last thing she could take was a night in the hospital. I'm going to sleep as soon as you leave. I'm a big boy, okay? Besides, don't you have a class to teach? She spent the next half hour plumping pillows, arranging for a television set, buying magazines and chocolate bars. She looked about to talk a couple of times, but then she'd just do something to keep herself busy. Finally, she was ready to leave, and I was relieved to see her go. The girls will want to visit tonight, she said at the door. No, Mum, not the girls. That was the last thing I needed. Mad alone could weep and wail loud enough to wake the dead, or at least the comatose. Joni would be painting pain for a month straight, and who knew what cooking tailspin this would send Beth into. Muffins molded into fists, pasta shaped like swollen lips. Please, Mom, promise me. Okay, you're probably right. They're a little emotional sometimes. The first smile of the day reached my puffy lips. Just a little? She left, and I promptly dozed off from the painkillers. When I woke up, feeling blurry around the edge, the first thing I saw was Fish's big face at the foot of my bed. He looked pissed off. Claude? Fine, thanks. How are you? Yeah. You look like crap. It was Claude, wasn't it? I nodded. Fish jumped to his feet and turned in a circle, clenching his fist. I'm gonna get him. Don't worry about it. No, you're not. You're gonna let him get away with this? I shook my head. I want you to do something for me, but not that. He sat down. What then? I want you to teach me how to fight. Chapter 13. Or end of chapter 12.